Hello and welcome to the Down Under Visa Philippines to Australia podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Harvey, registered migration agent with Down Under Visa in Manila, Philippines. And today's episode will be based on the Down Under Visa blog post, which is Visa Applications in the Modern Age. Okay, Down Under Visa are a modern and efficient migration agency practice. This is how we manage to take care of clients from all over Australia and all over the Philippines without the drudgery of having to keep coming back and forth to an office lugging papers. It is 2018 after all. Now, I'm technically what you would call an old bloke in Australia. Born in 1965, educated in the 1970s, when calculators were still considered high-tech, black and white TVs, phones with cords, one phone per house, yellow pages and the World Book Encyclopedia, and newspaper ads were the window on the world. Computers, couldn't see any use for them, and I swore I would never touch one ever. Yes, famous last words they were. My goodness, I wouldn't last 5 minutes without a computer these days, but yes, how things change, and when it comes to visa applications, it's definitely better. Now, none of you would have ever heard of Down Under Visa if it wasn't for the internet and computers or smartphones. You probably wouldn't have even known that migration agents existed as a profession. And you think about it, you probably would never have met your lovely Filipina girl either if it weren't for the internet. And if by chance you had have met her or somebody else, your relationship would have developed far slower than if you were dependent on writing letters to each other with a postal service that took 2 weeks to get a letter there and 2 weeks to get it back. Couples these days can spend hours each day on Skype or Viber talking with webcams, all for free. Yes, I can. Yes, when I was first contacting ladies in the Philippines, that was back in the 90s, and it was actually in the letter writing stages. Nobody was using email back then. It was a case of you would write a letter, you would post it away, and 2 weeks later she would get it, and she'd sit there with a dictionary for the next week while writing a reply, and with the help of every cousin and auntie that was around, and posting the letter, and it would take 2 weeks to get back. So by the time you got a reply to something, it was at least 5 weeks. My goodness. So again, yes, how things have changed, and look, that is the way it works in every facet of life these days. You pay bills. Most of the time you pay them online, rather than spending your lunch break standing in a queue to pay the phone or electricity bill. Bank statements, all online. Anyone remember the days of having a single solitary bank branch you could deal with, and only 10 a.m. till 3 p.m. Monday to Friday? What an absolute pain. No ATMs, no nothing. If you happen to be away from your bank and out of money, well, you were out of luck, weren't you, my friend? Yes, and I guess I find sometimes it a little frustrating when we have clients who, one of the first things they tell me is, I'm not very good with computers. And I think to myself, well, if you weren't that good with computers, how did you find us in the first place? Obviously you weren't that bad with computers, or you would never have looked us up. You would never have filled out our assessment form, and we would never have been able to get back to you if you couldn't open an attachment that was sent to you via email. So, and again, the chances are you probably met your girl via some sort of online service anyway. So, yes, again, computers are everywhere, and that's the way the world works. So, Down Under Visa and technology. Now, Down Under Visa are unashamedly high-tech. Now, we use the internet and we use computers for practically everything that we do, and this is to make the process from start to finish so much easier and smoother for our clients and prospective clients. And look, it really has. When we started off, we used to rely on a PDF format guidebook and PDF checklists. We used to prepare these up and email them out to people. It worked, but the information was limited, and the checklists, of course, did not update themselves. What used to happen is I would email these things out, and a few weeks later, the client would get back to me and say, "So, what do I still need to get?" Because they'd lost their email, they didn't save it or highlight it in any way, so they couldn't find the guidebook, they couldn't find the checklist, so we're having to constantly update people and say, right, well, here's your checklist. Oh, how do I get a birth certificate? Oh, how do I get that? Oh, okay, well, it's on page whatever of the guidebook. It was a slow and tedious process. So, yes, we, after a brainstorm of mine, we came up with the Migration Hub, which we launched in, actually, I cannot remember whether it was July 2014 or 2015, one or the other. To those who don't know, this is our client portal, which Down Under Visa clients can log into and get their own documents, personalised to-do list, supporting information, FAQs, and updates. So what that means is that you have a list of everything that's needed, and you send something in, we check it off, we update your to-do list, and that's done live. So as we say, yes, that's fine, you've satisfied that, or no, you haven't, and this is the reason why, well, you can log into your own private client portal any time of the day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you have that information right there at your fingertips without having to email, without having to wait for responses. Now, I just had a client, an IT man, actually tell me how impressed he was with the hub, how easy he found it, and it most certainly is. And I can remember when it was first launched, it was almost eerie because the inquiries dropped to about a quarter of their former volume. It just all went silent because everybody was fine. They had all the information they needed without. I don't know. People used to they used to get very upset and very emotional and frustrated because they just try as we may, it was still such a traumatic process for people because we couldn't get information across as well as we would have liked, and thus the hub has been an absolute godsend to our clients. It's made the process so much easier. But yeah, so inquiries dropped and preparation time for visas. Well, basically we found we were preparing applications from start to finish about half the time that they were taking before. So we knew it was a success from the beginning, and we're continually working on that. We're actually working on a fairly major update of it at the moment, which is going to make it even easier. Now, technology and Australian visa applications. Now, the old days of visa applications from Philippines to Australia, they actually meant a long line outside the Australian embassy in Makati. You used to literally go around the corner, pay for forms and stacks of IDs and photos, letters, etc. And you waited your turn to plop them down on the counter along with your manager's check for X amount of pesos, and then head back to the province and wait for letters asking for additional documents. Now, there were less applications being processed back then, and I suspect they probably had more staff numbers because, they had staff who used their job as manning the counters and dealing with the people who'd been in the lines all day. And they generally didn't take as long to process, and they really did tolerate a lower standard of information and documentation to what they asked for now, but it was a clumsy process and far from easy and convenient, and very hard on the shoe leather, actually. These days, I mean, no one gets into the embassy to lodge applications. They don't even get in to ask questions. Call them up and they'll just direct you to the website. You want to book an appointment there for a no impediment to marriage certificate to marry in the Philippines, you must book online. They won't take it over the phone anymore. And certainly won't take you just lobbing up there. And most visa applications are lodged online now. Payments are online. Acknowledgement letters and bridging visa grants all come back within minutes of an electronic lodgement instead of waiting for weeks. Visa grants come through by email too. No couriers, and no stickers and passports anymore. Once upon a time, clients used to have to send us in their passports, and we had to hang on to these scary things. And we would courier them off to the embassy when the visa was granted. They would send them off, and they'd manually place these visa stickers in the passports and then courier them back. And my goodness, we had used to get some panics amongst clients when that sort of thing was going on. So yes, we don't miss those days. And what it means is we can deal with clients from everywhere too. Girls don't need to make those long journeys from remote provinces into Manila to present documents to our office staff. Yes, if it's convenient for you to drop off documents to us, of course this is fine, but you don't need to spend 8 hours on the bus to do so if you don't want to. Anyway, I mean, why would you want to do that? And down on the visa staff and myself, of course, are fantastically good looking. There's no question about that, but it's really not worth the long journey if you can possibly avoid having to do that. And incidentally, it's fairly obvious to us that we're not everybody operates exactly like we do. A lot of the more primitive of the travel agents and certainly the employment agents who do the work visas into the Middle East and what have you, they do still require people to turn up at their office and bring their stacks of requirements and what have you. And I guess people tend to expect that. They tend to say, when do I need to come into your office? I'll need to come into your office, won't I? And we explain that no, look, it's absolutely not necessary. We're a bit more user friendly than that. And in fact, we would only actually meet in person probably about 5% of our clients these days. It's it's been like that for quite a while. And again, this is why we can manage to have clients from all over Australia, from all over the Philippines, without people having to make arduous journeys to come in and see us and to come and see us every time they have a problem. We have a very efficient system set up there. You find that the Migration Hub, it has all the information that's necessary. There are links to further information at your fingertips, basically. If you need more information on some particular aspect, you click on a link, and there are videos, there are all sorts of things in there. So, and then when in doubt, if you still need some further information, you're always free to email us, and you'll get a speedy and detailed response, which will answer all of your questions. So basically, computers and internet processors, they are the way of the world these days. Everyone needs to know how to set secure passwords with upper and lower case letters and numbers, etc. Everyone needs to know how to copy and paste, to upload and to download. It's not just us. Manual processes and everything that you do are disappearing and being replaced with technology. Not good with computers. In fact, I remember a story of a farmer. It wasn't just an urban or rural myth, because it was actually the fellow who told me it was his grandfather. When they got their first tractor, he wasn't accustomed to using tractors, and he was heading towards the gate on the tractor, and he started going, "Whoa!" And of course the tractor didn't respond, as the horse was gone. So he had to learn to drive a tractor. It's as simple as that. Now, you need to become good with computers if you want to get anything done in the future, and you will certainly find that when it comes to visa applications. They can't be done over the phone, and honestly, turning up at our office every time you have a question, or every time you have a new document to deliver us, you'd go insane doing that, and it would probably take you a year to get a visa application prepared. So you really don't want that. So yes, learn how to use computers. Ask around if you have teenage grandchildren or children or whatever. I'm sure they can help you. But get up to speed with that. We certainly make no apologies for the way that we do work, because we find it works so much better, and we have quite a stunning success rate to show for it. Okay, well, thank you very much. We hope you have enjoyed today's podcast. I hope you have already subscribed, and we look forward to talking to you again next time. Thank you.